Guys, Phil here with Warhammer, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about the differences between 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy and the Armies Project. I cannot talk. The Warhammer Armies Project edition, which is the unofficial 9th edition. There is one other version, I believe. I don't know much about it. I think it's called 9TA or T9A or something like that, but I'm not very familiar with that, so I'm just telling you something that I recently heard about. So I wanted to tell you the difference between this stuff, and I actually made a video earlier, but I didn't have any audio because I messed up with my mic. So I'm re-recording this 30 minutes down the drain. Anyways, let's do it. So basic rules here, guys. Here's some stuff. I may or may not do all of it. I'm not sure. I think I'm just gonna go for the main things. I will tell you this straight up, guys. Some of the things that got the most differences made from 8th to 9th is magic in a good way, and also shooting in a good way as well. Actually, a lot of the magic, shooting, and close combat as well. And a lot of stuff got changed. Stuff got changed, and it was for the good. All right, so let's get started. So, basic rules, guys. You may reroll or reroll if you have two special rules at different power levels that would otherwise cancel each other out. I guess that means that if you have equal special rules, then you can reroll or reroll. I don't know. That's kind of how I take it. You can tell me if I'm wrong on that. Sequencing, when two or more rules happen at the same time, resolve both at the same time whenever possible. So if it is possible, they will go simultaneously. Forming units, this is a big difference, guys. When I first came in 7th edition, there was unit strength, I believe. I could be wrong about that, but I played so little that I don't even remember that being an issue. I didn't remember that being something. So I guess it's back, and it's been in other versions or other editions as well. So basically, a unit may not have more ranks than they have files. So this basically means that you can't be two guys wide from left to right. You know, the front of your battalion, whatever your little block of guys, and be like 5 ranks back. You have to go like 5 to the right, and then you can go 5 back. So basically, they're saying that you can't have more rank than file, guys. It has to be equal. So if you have 5 guys wide, the most you can do is 5 ranks. So that would be 25 guys at the most. Okay, that's my understanding of it. So you can't have these gigantic hordes where you have like Skaven with 10 ranks or something, and they're just a blob of guys that just stay there forever, right? So you can't have like 100 slaves or something like that from the Skaven army. So that's kind of interesting. So it stops you from having just a big tar pit army. I guess you could do that, but you'd have to go pretty wide. So let's say you wanted 10 ranks, you would have to go 10 wide, and then you have impassable terrain and all kinds of stuff, right? That actually kind of goes hand in hand with another rule down here where you have to be in movement. You have to be an inch apart, and you can't end up an inch apart. You have to or from another unit or impassable terrain, unless you're charging. I think when you're charging, you can be an inch apart or within an inch. So that's a big thing right there, guys. That's a big change, right? What else? So unit strength has been added. In fact, I was saying something about that earlier, and it didn't really have anything to do with that. I just realized unit strength is basically the strength of your unit based on how many models are in there, or wounds, I guess, right? So if you have 20 guys in a little squad, usually that would mean that you have a unit strength of 20, right? If you only have 10, it's 10, right? But then you have cavalry and monsters, and my understanding is that like cavalry will be 2 per horsey man. That's the best way for me to explain that. So like let's say you have 5 knights, that would be a unit strength of 10, right? And so on, right? And then monsters, and I'm not sure how it works with characters, to be honest. But like let's say you have a monster like a Hydra or something, which has like I think it's like 7 wounds, it would have a unit strength of 7. That's my understanding of that. All right, you can tell me if I'm wrong about that. And that's something that comes into play with combat res and all kinds of stuff. Okay, line of sight. This is one so let's just read it. For a model to have line of sight to another, you must be able to trace an unblocked line from the front arc of its base to the base of the target. So you got to be able to see it within your front target. However, models with a higher line of sight value can see and be seen behind models or terrain with a lower line of sight value. So does that? I wonder if that tells me. I'm a little confused about that. Maybe that has to do with some of the rules to the infantry or something. I'm not sure, but basically saying that models with a higher line of sight value. So I guess some guys have a higher line of sight and they can see stuff. Maybe that's a special rule for like an army, like elves or something, wood elves or something. Maybe they have a higher line of sight and they can see through obstacles easier. Maybe they don't get a -1 to hit, or maybe that has to do. I think somebody said that like if you have a giant and it's like has a certain unit strength, and you'll be able to see it like over some trees because it's so big. So I don't know. I'm not entirely sure about that. Maybe y'all can let me know in the comments below. Fighting a battle. I did think that this was interesting on deployment. All units costing less than 50 points or less have to be placed at the same time. So if you have like a little like the dog from like the ogres or whatever, I forget what they're called. But it's like a little cold one dog or something like that, which are only like 20 points or 40 points, something like that. They're pretty cheap. I don't know. I can't remember. It's been a while since I played ogres. But anyways, I think they're 50 points or less. You can't just like have a bunch of those and just place them one at a time just to see where the opponent's block of guys is going to be. Sorry, I got to take a drink real quick. And also you have characters here, right? It's the same applies to characters, which have to be placed at the same time after all other units have been deployed. So characters all go in at the end, right? I want to say it was like that in 7th edition, maybe. I'm not sure. The movement, like I mentioned before, you have to stay 1 inch apart from impassable terrain or another unit. You can what's it called? If pivoting causes you to come in base combat, you must move your bottom by. So basically, you got to stay away from other units. You got to stay away from impassable terrain. Redirecting the charge. So it's kind of neat, guys. So basically, if you charge something, I'm just going to read you the paraphrasing instead of reading the whole thing when I know what it is. If you charge something and then you choose to redirect, and then that second unit flees, they both flee, right? The first one flees, then the second one flees. You can choose to redirect to the first fleeing unit without passing a leadership test, which is pretty cool. It just means that you can charge it no matter what and possibly catch them, right? Or at least get closer, right? Calculating charge range. So my understanding of this, guys, is that for infantry, you're going to roll a 2d6, and then it's the higher of that 2d6 plus your movement value, right? And that'll be your charge range. For instance, if you have an empire, a halberdier or something, and they're moving 4 or whatever, and you roll a 5 and a 2, then you'll get 5 plus 4, which would be 9, right? This is different for cavalry and for cavalry with a certain movement value. So for cavalry with a movement of, I think it's 6 or less, or 6 or less, right? You're not really going to see too much or whatever, unless it's barded. I guess I think it's 7 or less. I forget the exact rule. You're going to be doing 2d6 plus your movement. So that's basically how charge was in 8th edition. For anything over 7, a movement of 7, I think it's going to be a swift stride rule. So basically, you're going to be able to roll 3d6, take the higher of those 2 dice plus your movement value. So that's going to be the charging value. All right. What else we got here? Aligning with the enemy. The only exception to the charge aligning to. All right, let me try to read this the right way. The only exception to the charger aligning to the target is if the unit with less than a unit is charged by unit with its strength, then the unit will align to the charging unit rather than the other way around. So if you have more unit strength, they will align to you. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. I don't know. Y'all can let me know. I got a little confused by that one. That's going to happen too, guys. Like some of this stuff, I'm not going to get it right away. I just haven't read the rule books in a while. So sometimes I don't know if y'all like me. Sometimes you read something and you have to read like 10 times before you actually understand it. So that seems to be one of those for me. It just kind of made my eyes glaze over. Charging a fleeing enemy. So the fleeing unit suffers 2 wounds with no armor saves of any kind. No saves of any kind, not armor saves, for each point of unit the charging unit has. So if you charge a fleeing enemy, so they suffer 2 wounds with no saves of any kind at all. If any model survive, the charging unit stops 1 inch behind the remainder. So you don't automatically destroy them. It looks like you just kill 2 guys off automatically. Oh, for each. Oh, okay. So it's not just 2 guys. For each unit strength higher. Oh, wait, no. For each unit strength the charging unit has. Okay, so if you have a unit strength of 5, you'll destroy 10 guys. Okay, I see. So they better have a lot of guys in order for them not to be completely destroyed. I think that's the way I got it. Redirecting the charge. Redirecting no longer requires passing a leadership test. If multiple units want to redirect the same target, the controlling player chooses which order to move their charging units. Okay. I think that's what I was reading earlier. Unless I'm crazy. So I guess you could all charge the same unit, right? Without having to pass a leadership test. Moving fleeing units. If the unit flees through a non-fleeing enemy unit, it suffers 1 automatic wound for each point of unit strength that the enemy unit has. with no start. So if you move through somebody with a unit strength of 10, you're gonna take wow, you're gonna take 10 wounds, and that's no save of any kind, so no word saves, right? Rallying freely, dude. Dude, I like this rule right here. So, I always thought it was so dumb that one guy could hold up like 300 to 500 points of a little block of guys, right, or a big block of guys, right, and they would just be able to pass a leadership test on leadership 8 or 9 or something like that, which is just kind of insane if they've had most of their army destroyed, right? So this means that, let's say you have a unit of elves which has high leadership usually, right? Maybe they have a leadership 8. If they're fleeing, they're not going to be able to just rally on an 8. They're going to have to rally on like a 4, right? Now they have a musician order, maybe it's a 5, but still 5 is better than 8, or 9, right? If they have a musician or standard bearer, I forget which one it is, that gives you +1 to rally. I think it's the musician. So I really like this role. I think that's something that will help you clear points off the table, right, and get guys gone. So magic, guys. This is probably my favorite change of this whole thing. It's so cool, and there's a lot of changes, guys. So yeah. So just listen up and brace yourself. Okay, guys. So here we go. Magic. First things first. It starts off well. To determine the wither spells, consult the chosen lore and the spells you want for your wizard, so you don't have to roll for spells. I really like this. I always thought it was kind of silly you couldn't pick your spells. With the roll. I mean, it's kind of cool, I guess, in a way, but it's also like I would rather be able to pick them. I mean, there's some spells that just they really won't do they won't do any good against the army you're going against, right? Or they're just not really that good a spell, period, right? So I think this is a great start. Here's the next thing. Regardless of a wizard's level, they always know the signature spell. I always thought it was kind of silly that you have a signature spell, but then you have to like change one out or something like that. I really like this. I think it's cool that they know the signature spell just straight up. I think that's cool. They're that kind of wizard. They should know the signature spell. All right. Even if another wizard already knows the signature spell. If a wizard can take spells from multiple lores, they at most have 2 different signature spells. So that's cool. That if you know another lore, then you'll know the signature spells from both. Not that wizards do not get to choose their spells. That do not get to choose their spells either due to no one only a few specific spells or having them as bound spells. They don't get the signature spells. So it's not so OP, I just think it's kind of cool. Okay, next thing is you roll for Winds of Magic. It's kind of simple here, guys. For every 2,000 points, you roll 2 dice. 2,000 points is 2 dice, and 2 dice or up to 2,000 points. 4,000 points is going to be 4 dice, 4d6, 6,000 points, 66, and so on. I think that's neat. Okay, so you're not limited to 12 dice in the pool. That's cool. Channeling power dice. I think this is kind of neat. So the casting player rolls a d6 for every wizard level in their army. So you have a level 4, you roll 4 dice. For every 5 or 6, you get to channel another power dice. I think that's cool. When it's for dispel dice, it's the same thing, except you roll d6 for every level or whatever, but you only channel on a 6. I think that's cool. So it gives the casting player a little bit more of an advantage. Spell types. So magical vortex spells may not be used in a way that they affect friendly models or enemies in close combat when initially cast. Remains in place spells can only be ended at the start of a magic phase, so you got to be very precise with that. Choose number of power dice. So the number of power dice each wizard can use to cast each spell is determined by their wizard level +2. So if you're level 1, you can use up to 3 dice. So if you're level 2, you can use up to 4 dice, right? So pretty simple. You're level 4, you can use up to 6 dice. So it's kind of cool. It's not. I guess it's not too overpowered. For a spell to be cast, the total of the dice rolled added to the wizard's wizard's level divided by half must equal or beat the casting value. So pretty much that means that if you have a level 4, you're only going to be adding 2 instead of 4, right? So that's kind of interesting. You may never have more than 5 plus bonus to cast or dispel in total. All right, boosted spells. So if you roll high enough, so so this is something I love, guys. So if you roll high enough to get the higher version of the spell, you can just choose to do the higher one, which why wouldn't you do? If you can get like 2d6 instead of 1d6, why wouldn't you do that? I think that's great. I always hated that you had to say it's one or the other. I think that if you roll high enough, then you generate enough magic thingies in order to do that, right? So that's kind of cool. Broken concentration. If the natural dice scores is a 1 or 2, not only does the spell not cast, the wizard breaks concentration and is unable to cast or dispel for the rest of the magic space. So that kind of makes sense. The wizard just didn't have his mojo that phase. Let's see. Irresistible Force replaced with ultimate power. I love this guy. So for every natural 6 rolled when casting a spell, you automatically have to roll another free power die. So just know that this could be good, really good, but also really bad because you could miscast, right? You have 2 1s, you could miscast. So it basically means that if you roll, like say you roll 3 6s when you're casting, you roll an additional 3 6s. So, you roll an additional 3 dice, and those 3 dice can add, or they can help you miscast. So basically, it can give you ultimate power. It can be an ultimate miscast, right? So if now it's miscast. If 2 or more unmodified ones are rolled when casting a spell, it has been a miscast. Add the total number of dice used to cast the spell to the number rolled on the d6 and consult the miscast table. I haven't seen the miscast table, but I imagine there's some badness going on there. Extended miscast table with plenty of new results. So that'll be interesting. Dispel value. For every dispel to succeed, the total of the dice rolled added to the wizard's level by half, right? So must equal or beat the spell's casting result, okay? Ultimate power. For every natural 6 rolling when casting or dispelling a spell, you automatically roll an additional 3. So the same thing when you're dispelling. You get a 6, then you roll another die, right? For every natural 6 you roll when dispelling, you roll another die, and that can help you get more power to your dispel, right? To note that any 6s rolled on these initiatives do not count. So here's another thing to note, guys. Whenever you're doing this, like any additional 6s, actually, I don't know how this works with the offensive side. Cast. No, never mind. It says casting or dispelling. So this means to me that what I get out of this is that if you roll, a free die, for rolling a 6, that 6, if you roll another 6, that means you can't get another one, because I could just keep going and going and going. So you can only get it from their natural 6s that you roll to get that, right? So that's kind of cool. Unless I'm missing something there. All right. Duplicate spells. For whatever reason, a single unit may not be targeted by the same remains in play spell, or a spell that lasts more than one player turn more than once per game. So you can't stack these remains in play spells on a single unit. So I guess that's okay. You don't want it to get a little bit too crazy. Casting's bounce spells. I think this is kind of neat, guys. So basically, you get a free power dice when you're casting a bounce spell. I like that. We'll move on to shooting now. Okay, so shooting, guys. All right, so there's some cool changes here. I like them. First things first is shooting into combat. If a unit is within 4 inches of an unengaged arc of an enemy in close combat, it may attempt to fire at them. For each 1 rolled, you're going to hit your own guys. That's pretty much what happens. I kind of like that. It's just something that makes sense to me, right? You're going to hit your own guys, but you'll hit the enemy too, right? So you are only allowed to fire into combat if the target strength is unit 5 or more. So you can't shoot at guys that are 4 or less unit strength, okay? Firing at long range, penalty removed. I love this, guys. I always thought that shooting was just like not so underwhelming before. It just seems so underwhelming, and sometimes you face stuff that's just ridiculous. For instance, like I played a Wood Elf game, and I was just like, man, I thought I'd be able to kick some more ass, and it just did nothing. All right. I don't think it's going to be too OP, but I guess playing the game is going to be the ultimate decider. We'll see how that goes. So I like this. I don't know. Let me know what you all think. So firing at short range, any shots taken at an enemy that's closer than 4 inches gains a +1 shooting modifier. I do like this. Cover. If the majority of the models in the turn are you within line of sight. I think I read this rule before, and it was just kind of, it made me, my eyes glaze over. But I'll read it anyways. If the majority of the models in the target unit are within line of sight, but behind models from another unit, friend or foe, or terrain with half or more as high unit strength of them, then an additional hit modifier is applied. This works the other way around. So a model with line of sight value of 3. See, I don't. Maybe this is something new. I don't understand line of sight value. I'm not familiar with that one. Will ignore cover otherwise given by a model. So that's what's going on here. I'm just not familiar with the line of sight attribute. I'm sure it's not that difficult. I just don't really know too much about it. So I guess there's a certain value you have to have in order to be able to do that. But anyways, I guess I don't understand it too much yet, so if I sound dumb, it's because I'm just not too familiar with that. Ward saves, and we'll move on to that, guys. So basically, ward saves can be combined. Is from what I've heard in this video. So basically, this means that, like, let's say you have a 5 up save, and then you gain a 6+ save because of magic or some other some other scenario. Maybe you have a scenario you get a 6+ save from like a woods or something, or a forest or something like that. Then you can combine it, and it'll become. It won't mean you have 2 saves. It just means that it stacks up your current save. So let's say you have a 5+, you gain a 6+, and then it'll go up to a 4+. So you can't go beyond the 4+. The 4+ ward save is the most you can get from something like that. Pretty cool. If you have a 3+ ward save already, then it's not like you'll get a better one from stuff like this. So just so you know. Okay. Next thing we'll do is close combat. So who can strike? All right. You may always direct your attacks against normal rank and file models, right? As long as the model is in base contact with any model of the enemy unit, including characters and command group models. If a model has more than one attack and finds itself in base contact with 2 or more enemies with different characteristic profiles, it must choose which one to attack when its turn to strike comes before any dice roll. So you have to pick your unit attack before you roll anything. Horde rule removed. I'm not familiar with the horde rule, to be honest. Maybe I know it and I don't know that I know it. I'm not sure. But if y'all know it, just list it below. I'll have to look it up later. So that's been removed. I don't know what it is, to be honest. I'm not really sure. Striking order. Models that are charged the same turn add +1 to their initiative. I love this, guys. I think this is great. I think it makes sense that if you're charging, you want to be a little bit more on your shit. So that's pretty cool. Roll to hit. Models with more than twice the weapon skill of their opponent will always hit on a 2+. I love this. I think that's great. Charge. If your unit charges turn, it receives +1 combat result. Okay. This is cumulative with several units charging the same target at once, so you get +1 for everything charging it. I don't know if that's changed. Is that new? Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Extra ranks. Rank bonus is cumulative with several units engaged in the same close combat. Calculating ranks for each unit as long as they are engaged in different arcs of the enemy. So you don't get a +1 if you have 2 guys to the rank bonus. If you have, this is my understanding of it, if you have 2 guys charging from the front arc or 2 guys charging from the side arc, you'll get 1 and 1 for each one. Okay, so if you get 1 in the flank, 1 in the front, 1 in the side, that would be +3. Plus rank bonus is cumulative. So you would only get your rank bonus if you charge in those arcs or in the rear as well. So disruption. A unit. I think this is kind of cool too, guys. I read this before. A unit does not receive combat res points for extra ranks. I'm sorry, and cannot be steadfast if it's disrupted. And so that means that if an enemy unit of unit strength of 10 or more attacks it in its rear, it's going to disrupt it and it's going to lose its steadfast and extra ranks. I like that. I think it's cool because it means that you were caught completely off guard. You got end by a big big enemy unit. So it makes sense that might disrupt your stuff. Outnumber. If your unit has more unit strength than the enemy, it adds +1 to combat res. Like that. Standard bearer bonus is cumulative with several units, so that means that pretty much every unit gets a standard in the combat res. That's kind of cool, I guess. If an enemy, I guess it gives you more unit to take standards in your army. If an enemy unit is engaged in both flanks, you receive +2 to combat results. So you get +1 for each flank, I guess. High ground, I like this too. If you are charging or fighting from a higher position than your enemy, for example, your troops are occupying the crest of a hill or charged on the same turn, you receive +1 to combat results. Okay, I had to pause for a second because I had to sneeze. All right, overkill. If a character is fighting a challenge and kills their opponent and scores more wounds than the enemy has remaining, then the excess wound scores +1 combat res up to the maximum of 3. So overkill equals more combat res. Okay. Steadfast. Steadfast units always take break tests on their own. Leadership characteristics, unless their normal modified leadership would normally be higher than the source from another source. Unless their normal modified leadership would. I have a hard time understanding this sentence right here, but my understanding is that you won't be getting like an inspiring present on the steadfast test. I'm probably wrong about that. I'm not. It seems like to me these look like oxymoronic things. I could be wrong about that. Definitely always take breakthroughs on their own leadership characteristics, unless their normal modified leadership would normally be higher from another source. I'm not sure what the other source would be other than inspired presence. I'm not really sure. Maybe y'all can help me understand that one. I'm a little bit confused. Insane courage removed. I'm not sure what that is. I imagine it's kind of like stubborn or something. I don't know. Pursuing a fleeing enemy. The fleeing unit suffers 2 wounds with no saves of any kind allowed for each point of unit strength the charged unit has, just as when charging a fleeing enemy. So basically, let's say the pursuing enemy unit has a strength of 10, you would take 20 20 wounds. So yeah, they could literally wipe you out, but it means that you still have a chance of not just being completely wiped out. And if I remember correctly, if they don't catch you or whatever, you stop an inch behind them. Maybe I'm remembering wrong, but I think that's what it was. Overrun, if you, or maybe I'm ahead of myself, I'm not sure. Overrun, if you charge an enemy and they are wiped out before the close combat phase by a spell, template, or a template weapon, for instance, you can choose to either overrun or reform from victory unless the unit has made any other moves this turn outside of the movement phase. So, so like I say, something gets blown up by like a cannon and it's gone. You can overrun. I guess you can go forward and basically charge into a new unit or reform. It's like you won the combat. Okay, that's my understanding of that. Okay, so last thing is multiple combats and breakthrough in the combat. There's a bug here on my computer. Not sure what that thing is. All right. In a combat involving multiple units, you will first need to calculate the total combat resolution score for all units involved on both sides to determine the overall winner of the combat. So basically, it's all together. All the combat rates are together. After the breakthroughs model for each unit on the losing side is to be calculated separately. So you don't take them all together. You just do the combat res all together, but you don't take break tests all together. Just from one, and compared to the combined combat score of only enemies that they are in base so only with the enemy units that they are in contact with, not as a whole, not any other friendly units involved in combat. Units on the losing side whose combat resolution score is equal to or higher than the combat involved do not need to take base. Okay, so if the combat res for the unit that you're in base contact with, if the hold on, let me try that. Units on the losing side whose combat is higher. So basically, if they lost the whole thing as a whole, but they're higher than the person that or the unit that they're in base contact with, then they don't need to take a break test. So that's kind of interesting. So I guess that's kind of cool because that means they won't break just because everybody else is get their ass whooped, but instead counts as fighting to a draw. In addition, no unit on the losing side will suffer a negative modifier greater than the overall loss of their side, even if that unit itself might have such a lower combat. That part I have a little hard time understanding. No unit on the losing side will suffer a negative modifier greater than their overall loss on their side. I don't know. It only kind of gives me tired head. So, I got everything except that last part. Maybe it's just late and I'm just not understanding. Okay, guys. So we're gonna go over a couple of other rules here. There's quite a bit here. Whew, this is a lot of stuff right here, guys. There's a lot of stuff to go through here. So, psychology and all kinds of other stuff. Yeah, we're gonna go through that too. All right, guys. So first things first, panic. If a unit that started the phase with unit strength 10 or more is destroyed for any reason, all friendly units within 6 inches must immediately take a panic test. So, yeah. So I guess that means that if it's a smaller unit, you won't have to panic. I kind of like that. Next thing is if a unit that started the phase with a unit strength 10 or more breaks from close combat, all friendly. Isn't that just the exact same thing? It looks like there's a typo thing here because those two things are exactly the same. It looks like. All right. Okay. So here's some special rules that have some kind of changes. Always strike first. Okay. So if you have a higher initiative and you have always strike first, and you reroll hits. Always strike last. If your initiative is lower than your enemies, you have to reroll successful hits. So that's kind of different. Ambushers. A unit with the ambushers rule can choose not to deploy at the start of the battle. For every core unit that deploys as ambushers in your army, you're required to include one other core unit that does not deploy using the ambushers rule. So it looks like you have to use up more points in order to have ambushers. I guess I kind of like that because ambushers are tough, So I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel that. My initial thoughts is that I guess that's kind of cool because you have to worry about the points that they're going to cost if you are going to bring ambushers. So you have to put maybe double the points or close, just extra points into it in order to bring them. So it's an interesting rule. Animated construct. So non-animated constructs have the unbreakable and immunity to poison attack special rules, but they can't march, so they can only use their movement. All right, not sure how that works, but okay. Armor piercing. Armor piercing is cumulative with other sources of armor piercing. So I'm wondering if that means that if you have two things that are armor piercing, it'll increase the armor piercing. So instead of 2, it would be like 3. I'm not sure about that one. I'm not sure. Maybe it stacks up kind of like the ward save. Not sure. So maybe somebody can help me out with that. Added ignores armor save. If a model has this rule, no armor saves can be taken at all. So I'm not sure what units are going to have that, but that's pretty awesome. Breath weapons. Breath weapons attacks are measured from any point of the model's front arc, not the mouth of the model. I like this because if you think about it, some models are going to have their mouth that's further out than others. So if you have to measure from the front arc, which would be the base, I guess, then that means that it's always going to be the same. So nobody's going to get an advantage there. Okay, I think that's a good thing. After best one can use it to make it so once per shooting phase or close combat phase. After it's been used for the first time, you must roll a 4+ each time for attempting to use it again in close combat. You can, so I guess you can't use the breath weapon every time. You have to roll for it, actually. And it's a 50-50 chance you might not be able to use it. You can choose between attacking normally and using the breath weapon. So I guess it's kind of iffy if you use the breath weapon again. Maybe that's like, I don't know, saying that the dragon ran out of breath. A breath weapon attacks in close combat cannot hit any single model more than once. So you can't be hit twice by it? Okay, interesting. Dodge is added. Okay, so models gain this rule as a ward save against attacks in the front arc, including templates. Oh, okay. I like that. So if something has dodge, it'll get a ward save against, I guess, breath weapons. Or I guess even like bolt throwers, or not bolt throwers, I'm sorry, like catapults, trebuchets, and all that. I hate those things. This cannot be used against magical attacks that hit automatically, or that always have the always strikes first roll, nor can it be used by mounted models, unless specified. Okay. Expendable. This is interesting. Models with this special rule do not cause panic to friendly units that are not expendable themselves, so they can only panic other expendable units, like I guess like slaves. No character may join a unit with this rule. So these are just people that are there to die. They're literally just chaff. Okay, fast cavalry. Unless it charges, a fast cavalry is allowed to make a reform twice during its move without losing any movement. No, okay. They can reform twice. All right, once before they move and at the end of their move. So you can reform at the start and the end of your move. Oh, man, that makes fast cavalry even better. A unit of fast cavalry armed with missile weapons can choose fire and flee. Okay, I like that. So you can shoot and then head for the hills. A character model that uses unit of fast cavalry gains a fast cavalry special as long as they stay with the unit. All right, so they have to stay with it in order to have that role. Characters may only join. I kind of like that. I kind of like that a character can be in a unit of fast cavalry, and then they're fast cavalry themselves. It seemed like before that wasn't the case. I don't remember though. Characters may only join fast cavalry with the same troop type as them. Cavalry with no armor save better than 5+, and a Barney cannot use a fast cavalry special rule. Oh, okay. So you have to have 5+ save. So that's a little risk there, putting a character in there. So they can't have an armor save better than 5+. You better put a ward save on them or something. A unit of fast cavalry that chooses flee or fire and flee has a charge reaction does not cause panic from fleeing through friendly units and automatically rally in its next compulsory movement phase. Man, that's a big buff. That's a pretty nice. Well, I don't want to say big, but that's a really nice buff for fast cavalry. Okay, fear. Units in base contact with one or more models that have fear suffer -1 to combat res. If the unit strength of all the fear causing models in base contact is double or more, combat res is -2. So, okay. All right. That's not bad. Gives you a little bit extra for having fear and outnumbering your enemy by a lot. Fighting extra ranks. Okay. Works in a turn in which the model charges. This rule is cumulative with other sources of fight in extra ranks. Works in, so you can fight in extra ranks when you charge. So okay. I'm not sure what's different there. Maybe I'm missing something. Fly. Fly is now. What do I move in number brackets rather than a tangent? Fly is now fly with an asterisk, with the fly move being in the number brackets rather than a 10-inch move. I'm not sure what that means. Fighters have Swift Stride when charging. I do understand that. Removed hover. I don't remember what hover is. Clarified that any equipment or special rules that affect the model's regular movement will also affect the fly move unless specified. Okay, so you restrict their flying capabilities, I guess. Okay, guys, so I think I've seen this before, and I like this. If something is flammable, it no longer causes 2 wounds. It just means that those 2 wound rolls have to be re-rolled. All failed wounds to let's try that again. All failed rolls to wound can be re-rolled. You don't suffer double wounds. I do like this because it just sucks when you're a tree man and you're getting, say, you get killed by some wussy ass arrows just because they had braziers, you know. Like for instance, I played the Wood Elves this last weekend and they almost took down a tree man just from shooting at it, and I was just like, man. Yeah, because it's so cheap for some people to take flaming attacks. It's so ridiculous that you get 2 wounds, and you could literally have a 300 point model taken out almost immediately. Okay, so no, I just did that one. Hatred models with hatred must reroll successful rolls to restrain from pursuit against enemies they have hatred against. If a unit would gain hatred in a roll, there's a first round of combat for that reason. So if something gains hatred, it would count as the first round of combat. Like if they gained it in the second round or something like that, I guess they get to reroll their hits. That's my understanding. And they have to test to restrain themselves when pursuing someone they hate. Hidden special rule added. This works kind of like assassins. Ice attacks added. That's interesting. Never even heard of these. Models with the ice attack special rule cause all enemies in base contact with them to be subject to always strikes last special rule. I do like that. So they'll have a, what is it? I think I forgot if it's, I just saw it earlier. Let's look. Always strikes last. The initiative is lowered and must re-roll successful hits. So that could be kind of brutal. That's kind of rough. It might be a nice one to try to do on your enemy when possible. Okay, immunity. Added. Replaces immune to psychology and covers all immunities. Flaming, poison, killing blow, fear, panic. If majority of the models in the unit have immunity, panic, fear, or terror rule, the unit ignores effects of panic, fear, or terror, and any such test would otherwise take. Immunity, psychology allows the unit to automatically pass psychology tests. They may choose flee as a charge reaction when using feint, flight, or flee. Man, it's a tongue twister, unless they also have frenzy. So you can still flee if you're immune to psychology. You just can't do it if you have frenzy. That's my understanding. Okay. I think that's kind of cool. Impact hits. Unless specified, any rules that apply the model's normal attacks do not apply to impact hits. Normal attacks do not apply. Wasn't that the case before? I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something there. Killing blow against monsters I can't talk. Against monstrous infantry, monstrous cavalry, and monsters. A successful killing blow only inflicts one wound, which ignore armor save. So basically, against the monsters or things that have multiple wounds, it'll only do 1 wound, no armor save. So I guess you could still get a ward or a regeneration save. Against other troop types, it has no effect. Wait, so am I missing something? Is killing blow only for monsters infantry and above? Not for units? If it is, that's much different. Anyways, large target models with this visual have line of sight value equal to the number in the bracket. So I did read up on this a little bit, the little line of sight thing. So certain models like a dragon would have like a line of sight of like 5 or 6, something like that. This replaces the normal line of sight value normally assigned to their troop type. So I guess that just means that they can be. So I was reading up on this and I had some trouble with it before. So basically, line of sight just means how visible you are. If you have a 1 and you're, an infantryman would have like a line of sight value of 1, whereas like a monster's infantry would have a value of like 3, I think it is. So it just means they're a little bit more visible. So you could actually see them over a unit that has the same line of sight value as you. So for instance, if let's say that you have one of your units in front of you, but then the monstrous infantry is in front of them, you'd be able to see them because they're taller, they have a higher line of sight than the infantry that's in front of you. That's my understanding. Okay. Lightning attacks added. have the ignore armor save special rule against all types of armor except natural armor. So, this is going to be good for Skaven. That's what it looks like. And also, I guess, I'm not sure what lore that is, but yeah, definitely Skaven, like Warp Lightning. So this means that, so this doesn't work for Scaly Skin. It's just for like full plate armor, stuff like that, or just heavy armor, medium armor, that kind of stuff. Lore Master. A wizard with Lore Master knows all the available spells of their chosen lore, limited by their wizard level as normal. So they know all of them. Okay, they know all of them, but they can only take 4, and plus their signature spell. That's my understanding. Magical attacks added. Describe what effects are magical. Okay. Magic resistance. A model with magic resistance gains a bonus to dispel enemy spells directly targeting it. Okay, not including templates that are placed on top of it. Oh, okay. So that doesn't work for magical spells like that, I guess. As well as a ward save against damage caused by spell. Okay, so that's kind of nice. You get a ward spell and you get a bonus to dispel. So that means that like if you have to roll a 7 and you only get a 4 and you have a magic resistance of 3, then the plus 3 will equal 7, and then you'll be able to dispel it. And if it was to go through, you'd have what would that be? A 4 up, 3 up ward save or something like that, right? Okay, we go from 6 up to a 5 up to a 4. No, 4 up ward save. Pretty nice. This bonus is based on number shown in brackets after the magic resistance special roll. Magic resistance works against all spells, including ones that do not allow a save. If a model or unit has 2 sets of magic resistance, the 2 combine the maximum resistance, magic resistance of 3. So basically, the maximum you can get is a 4 plus ward save from magic resistance. Okay, guys. So next is monsters and handlers. I actually looked this up in the PDF. By the way, you can go download this on this website. I'm gonna show you where you can do that. Just go up here to the top when you go here, and go to Army Books 9th edition. Go to Rule Books. Go to 9th edition rulebook here, and you can do that there. If not, you can go here, and it's more like you can see everything on here. Not so much as a PDF, I don't think. I think it just comes up like a little blog post instead. But if you go here to, let's say 9th edition rulebook, it'll come up like a Google Doc or something like that. And then you can download it as a PDF. So that's what I've done. So let me show you something here. Go into this, to this particular thing. What is it? Mixed unit. I want to show you all this because this is important. Mixed unit. Okay. I'm not in the right spot. Am I in the right spot? No, I'm not. Okay. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Monsters and handlers. Okay. So monsters and handlers have a special rule. The special rule has been placed with mixed unit. So what this means is this. Oops. Let me take this down. Is basically a mixed unit often consists of 2 different troop types, which with 1 or more handlers that drive the rest of the unit forward, kind of like let's say like a Mangler squig or something like that. It has like 2 squigs and then handlers, I believe. Or let's say the Hydra. The Hydra has 2 Beastmasters, I think, or 3, I forget. So these can't be joined by characters unless specified. If a mixed unit is required to take a characteristic test, it does so with the characteristics of the unit itself, not the handlers. However, leadership tests will be taken by the handlers, is what I understand. The handler's moving value. So basically, the moving value is that of the beast or whatever. And yeah, so that seems like the main thing when it comes to a mixed unit. Just wanted to show you all that. Mover fire is next. Mounted models with the mover fire weapons may still move and fire, but they may not march if they do so, unless specified. Okay, so they can move and shoot. They just can't do it if they can't march unless there's a special rule. Okay, multiple shots. All models in a unit, excluding characters, must fire either single or multiple shots. Multiple wounds. Each wound inflicted by an attack with the multiple wounds special after armor and ward saves, but before regeneration, is multiplied into more than 1 wound unless otherwise specified. Multiple wounds apply only to close combat attacks. Okay. All right. Poison. By the way, guys, I heard a little bit more about this, and basically, when it comes to regeneration, and maybe this will come up later. I just wanted to tell you about it now. So let's say that you inflict a wound on a Hydra that has regeneration, at least as far as I know. and it regenerates the wound later on, that wound will still count towards or any wounds that you put on it that it regenerated would still count towards combat resolution. So just so you know, it was something that was inflicted and it was saved, but it does count towards combat resolution. So that's pretty good. Okay, poison attacks. A model with a poison attack gains a +1 modifier to wound roll. So poison's a little different now. It's not 6s automatically wound when you're shooting. It's poison attacks have +1 to wound. Not sure how I feel about that right now. I don't think it's that big a deal. I mean, it's gonna be a little harder to wound, but yeah, because you don't automatically hit and then and wound, right? You don't automatically wound at a 6, right? So I think it'll almost be about the same. If anything, it might be better. I don't know. It might be better. So like I say, you have a ballistic skill 4 and you're hitting on 3s, and then you're wounded on 4s. Usually you're hitting on 3s, you're wounded on 3s. It's pretty good. It's not bad at all. Okay, quick to fire. Quick to fire weapons may be used once per turn when declaring a charge. If the model's firing, if the model is within firing, let's try that again. If the model's firing is within their missile's weapon's maximum range before making their charge move. So does that mean that you can quick to fire when you're charging in? I'm not sure about that. That'd be kind of cool, but it doesn't say it's a stand-in. It looks like when you're declaring your charge, you can fire on the way in. That's my understanding. If that's true, then that's pretty dang good. I like that. If it's not, then it's not as good as I thought. Random attacks. If a unit contains more than one model with this special rule, always roll separately for each model. Okay. I'm not sure how that comes to play, but okay. Scaly skin, renamed natural armor. So that's what we were talking about earlier, about when something ignores armor saves, it doesn't count towards natural armor. Sea creature replaced with aquatic. Okay. I'm not sure where that would come into play. Skirmishers, except with the fly special rule, except models with fly have the Vanguard deployment special rule. If skirmishers declare a charge or a charge reaction that does not involve fleeing, they tighten their loose formation into a normal formation after the charge distance is rolled and charge is removed. Unless it charges, skirmish unit is allowed to reform twice during the move, kind of like fast cavalry. Once before the move and at the end of the move. Skirmishers follow the rules for foreign flight. I'm gonna pause it there and look up foreign flight in the PDF. Okay, I didn't see foreign flight in the PDF. Maybe I missed it. But yeah, I looked at it in here. I just didn't see anything about that. Maybe under just foreign. Foreign. Oops. Okay, I'm not sure what that is, so I'm not gonna pursue that any further. Skirmishers can disrupt as normal units. A character model that joins the unit gains the skirmisher special rule. I like this. I really do like this. As long as they stay, kind of like the fast cavalry rule. Characters may only join skirmishers with the same troop type as them. So I guess that means that they have to be like infantry or cavalry. Well, I mean skirmishers are all infantry, right? And so I guess it means it can't be like a monstrous infantry character or a monster character. That's my understanding, at least. Sniper. Removed mention of champions. You can use multiple shots with the sniper. I'm not sure what that means. Remove mention of champions. You can use multiple shots with a sniper. So you can fire multiple times, I guess. Stomp. Clarified that unless specified, any rules that apply to the model's normal attacks do not apply to stomps. A stomp has the always strikes last special rule and inflicts. So that means that you have a lower initiative, and then you also reroll hits. It flicks D6, that's my understanding, D6 or D3 against lone infantry models and skirmishers. So, okay, that's interesting. There's no longer D6 on them. Automatic hits. So, I don't know. I guess you don't reroll your hits because they're automatic hits. Stomps can be used after breath weapons. Thunder Stomp removed. So, it's just Stomp now. Okay, strength bonus added. Models with this special rule gain a strength bonus equal to the number in the brackets in the first round of each new close combat they are involved in. So I heard about this. So basically, this would be like great weapons, which instead of just being +2 strength all the time, they're +1 in the first round, +2 in the first round, +1 in subsequent rounds. Okay, and it looks like maybe this applies to other kind of weapons as well. Strider. So models with a strider will treat that piece of terrain as open ground for the purpose of movement. So they can move through like hard to move through stuff or maybe even impassable terrain. I'm not sure. Stubborn. If the majority of the models in the unit are stubborn, the unit is always steadfast whether or not they have a higher unit strength than their enemy or are disrupted. So this is a really good unit to have. Someone that's stubborn, that means that they can't be disrupted. You have to pretty much you have to wipe them out. So they may be able to hold people up. Okay. Stupidity. Models are not immune to psychology by default. It is if the test is failed, it moves directly forward using the random movement D6 special rule. Until they pass the stupidity test, again, models that have failed their stupidity test have the immunity, so it's psychology, and random movement. So I guess they don't take another stupidity test. So that, yeah, okay, that's my understanding at least. Swift Stride. When charging units entirely made of models with the Swift Stride special rule and movement 7 or higher, roll 2d6, discard the lowest result and add the result, I guess the 2d6 higher result to their movement value. When fleeing or pursuing, they roll 3d6. When charging units entirely made of models with Swift Stride special rule and movement 6 or a lower 2d6. So basically, if they have movement 7, they use a 3d6. They have movement 6, it's going to be 2d6, right? 6 or lower, it's going to be 2d6 when they have Swift Stride. Add the result of their movement value. So they just do the 2d6 and they just add that. They don't get that third die in there. When fleeing or pursuing, they roll 3d6 and discard the lowest result. So they have the Swift Stride when they're pursuing, but not when they're charging. That's my understanding of that. Yeah. Swift Stride has no effects on models with movement value lower than 4. Okay. Terror. Let's see how this works. If a terror causing creature declares a charge, that unit must immediately take a panic test. If unit wishes to declare a charge against an enemy that causes terror, it must take a psychology test to overcome its terror first. All right, so next is Unbreakable. Characters that are unbreakable may only join units that are also unbreakable, and characters that are not unbreakable are not permitted to join unbreakable units. Okay. Unstable. So there's like vampire counts and Tomb Kings and Legions, whatever, undead stuff. If an unstable unit would normally be eligible to be steadfast, they instead suffer 1 less wound than they would normally do. So I would normally be able to. So they just lose a unit instead of having to roll the leadership, I guess. I thought it was before that if you lost your leadership, you basically your other units exploded whatever you were over in your leadership or something like that. I could be wrong about that, but maybe I'm missing something there. Okay, so Vanguard. After both sides have deployed all of their forces, unit with the Vanguard special can make up to a 6-inch move, 12 in the case of cavalry. I heard about this. So basically, it's a 6-inch Vanguard move for skirmishers. I think that is so cool. So basically, skirmishers and fast cavalry got a buff. I really like it. At least on paper. A Vanguard move does not count towards moving purpose of shooting. For the purpose of shooting, so it doesn't count as moving and shooting. If a character is deployed as part of the unit with the Vanguard special, that unit can still make its Vanguard move if the character in question has a Vanguard special or if the model is a model on foot. Volley fire. Weapons with this rule are allowed the unit to fire with all the ranks in range in the shooting phase, as long as that at least one model in the unit can draw line of sight to the target. Man, that's a lot of shooting. However, if they do so, they suffer the -1 to hit. Volley fire can not be used as a target within half of the weapon's maximum range. Okay, so there's a lot of shooting that can happen there. I mean, it's going to be -1 to hit, but still, not bad. Next thing we're going to is troop type. Monsters infantry no longer have stride. No longer have stomp, and they have swift stride. Kind of nice. I mean, sucks about the stomp, but pretty cool about the swift stride. So a little bit of a nerf. Cavalry have an impact hit special rule. And equipment. Okay, that's interesting. That's gonna make sense too. Any equipment or magic items that the model might have only apply to the rider, not the mount. Okay, when attacking a cavalry model, always use the highest toughness and wounds value available from either rider or the mount. Models no longer receive an armor save for being mounted. Oh, okay, so no armor save, but you do get their toughness. So if somebody's rolling to hit your lord on a dragon, they're going to be toughness 6. But you're not going to get the model. You're not going to get you get +1 for being on the dragon, right? So there's a little bit of trade-off there. I mean, it's going to be harder to wound you, so I think that's a pretty fair trade. Okay, swarms. Swarms have the expendable rule. They're considered to be units strength 0 for the purpose of line of sight. So that means they can't see crap, and other models can fire through them at targets behind them with no hit penalty. So any swarm base that is hit by a template attack suffers d6 hits rather than 1. Oh, okay. Or beasts have the expendable special rule. Whoops. Monster beasts no longer have stamp, so their monsters have swift stride. Added rules for forbidden monsters in split profile. The crew can fire 360 degrees around them. Okay, rather than only firing at their front arc. So that's a cool rule. That makes war machines a little bit better for this regard. You can fire. I hate that you have to I think that's right though. You should be able to fire in any direction as long as they're further away. I mean, you're not just gonna have it pointed forward. You're gonna move a cannon around or a bolt thrower around. All right, chariots. Included the rules for chariot ranks. The crew can fire in 360 degrees around them rather than only fire targets in the front arc. I like that. When moving, the chariot always uses its own movement characteristics. Oh, so no marching for chariots. However, they may not pivot on the spot like lone models without reforming. They have to reform before pivoting. They have to reform in order to pivot. Many chariots have an armor save detailed in their armor list, which is combined with any armor the crew might have. Chariots in the second rank add D3 impact hits to chariots in the first rank. Interesting. That's pretty cool. Okay, guys. So I was looking through this, and the last thing I'm going to go through is weapons and armor. There's still a lot of stuff here, but I'm just going to go through weapons and armor. If you want to see the rest of the stuff, you can go check this out yourself. That's as far as I'm going to do a video on. I mean, of course, I am going to look at this stuff, but that's as far as I'm going to go with this because these videos are pretty long, or this is getting to be a long series of videos. Okay, so let's get to it. All right, so weapons and armor. Hand weapon. If a model is armed with another weapon besides their hand weapon, they must use this at all times unless specified. This applies to models armed with shields. Okay. Parry. Move 2 special rules. I read about this and I love it. Okay, so check this out, guys. Parry cannot be used against attacks that are made at +3 strength over the model strength value. Okay, I like that. I do like that. That means that, big, strong units are just going to mess your stuff up. Frenzy models may parry, so you can parry with frenzy model. Okay, but also I read about parry. Well, you know what? I'm actually incorrect here, guys. I'm thinking of shields. Let's see if they're coming up because we'll read about shields here in a little bit. Okay, I was thinking of shields instead of parry, so my bad. Morning stars are removed. I don't know what those are. I guess that's some kind of is that like a mace or something like that? Maybe it was. Halberd is renamed to pole arm. Weird. It sounds a little pornographic. Okay, great weapons add +1 strength. Have the strength bonus 1 special rule. And this is what I was talking about earlier, guys. Basically, I believe they have a +1. So they're +1 strength all the time and +1 strength on the first round. I believe that's how it works. It's -2 initiative instead of always strike last. So you still can strike first with great weapons. So let's say that you're charging and you have a unit with great weapons, you might still get to strike first. Or maybe even if you are able to increase your initiative with a magical spell, you might be able to wipe some people out if you have great weapons, if you can play your cards right. So pretty cool here, right? Pretty cool. I'm thinking if you have a unit of for instance, my Dark Elves, they have high initiative and they use great weapons. The Executioners do. And I've seen a couple of battle reports, and they have something called Murderous Prowess, where they can reroll wounds. Man, you could really do some damage with some Executioners, whereas before they were just striking last, so you could kill so many of them before they even get to attack back. So this is interesting. That makes great weapon units a lot better, in my opinion. Spears have strength bonus of 1 and +1 initiative in turns the model is charged in its front, so that makes sense. The spears are specifically for getting charged. Strength bonus only applies against. I don't understand what these acronyms are. WB, CA, MI, MB, MC. Are those army types or Maybe y'all can help me out. I don't really know what the weapon, but no. Honestly, I have no idea. I'm not sure what that means. So if somebody could help me out, I'm not sure what this is supposed to stand for. So you get +1 strength, +1 initiative when you're charged. So pretty cool. And it only applies against these things, whatever they are. Okay, pikes added. Have a strength bonus 1 and +3 initiative in turns the model is charged in its front. So pikes are even better than spears, it looks like. Strength bonus only applies against, again, WB, blah, blah, blah. And you can fight in 3 ranks. So pikes are pretty solid, it looks like. That's really interesting. Okay. Spears. Wait. Oh, spears mounted. That's what this is. Have +1 initiative in turn the model charges and only against the unit that they charged. Okay, that makes sense. Lances, model. Mounted, sorry. Have +2 initiative in turns the model charges and only against the unit in charge. Pretty sweet. Pretty good for Bretonians and other, I guess, like Chaos Knights and stuff like that. Other things that have a lance. Empire. 2 additional hand weapons have the parry 6+ roll, so additional 2 hand weapons equals a parry. Pretty cool. Short bow, long bow have the multiple shots special rule. Okay. And I believe what that means. I think I read about this. So basically, if you haven't moved, you can do a double shots, but it's going to be -1 to hit. Pretty cool though, because you can fire in all your ranks now, I believe. So only applies in turn of the model. Oh yeah, there you go. Had not been moved and cannot be used in stand and shoot. So you had to have not moved, and you can't be standing and shooting when you do double shots. So pretty cool. Repeated cost was removed. As a dark elf player, I'm sad, but it looks like it just got replaced with multiple shots roll. Blowpipe added. 12-inch strength 1, multiple shots, quick to fire poison attacks. So as I said before, poison attacks got a nerf. So that's a bit of a nerf on them. So bad for skinks. And other stuff they're the only ones that use blowpipes as far as I know. Javelins have armor piercing, pretty good for that. That's a little improvement. Throwing weapon have multiple shots, 2 shots. Okay, sling, armor piercing, I like that. Medium armor added, 5+ armor save. Heavy armor, 4+ armor save. Full plate armor, 3+ armor save. Very cool. Good for Empire. Good for probably dwarves and Bretonia, stuff like that. Good for the manlings. Shields. Okay, this is what I was talking about earlier. Let's see if they talk about it. Infantry armed with shields get a +1 to their an additional +1 to their armor save against missile attacks to their front. So basically, you get +2 if something's in front of you. So let's say you have a look at this. Let's say you have a 3+ armor save because you got that full plate armor and you have a shield. You're gonna have a 1+ armor save against something in your front arc, and you have a shield. Pretty cool. So you could have some knights that are just trotting up the field, and they're not going to be really messed with too much. Of course, there's armor piercing and stuff like that, but still, it's a bit of an improvement. No troop type gains any armor save from shields against missile attacks from the rear. I like that too. It makes sense that you're not gonna. It never made sense to me that you get +1 with your shield if you're getting attacked from the flank or the rear. Well, I guess from the flank, even from the flank, it makes sense, but not the rear. Bucklers added. Gives parry 6+ armor save in combat. Pretty cool. Okay, guys. There's still a lot to do here. I don't know. Maybe I'll go over it some other day, but this is so much stuff. I suggest you look through this, take a look at this. Maybe you can make more sense of some of the things that I didn't make a lot of sense out of. And but I really like what I see so far, guys. And then if you want to look at some of the army books, for me, of course, I'm going to go to Dark Elves and go see, you know, what they're all about, because that was the first army I ever got into. I'd love to see what kind of good stuff there is and what kind of changes there's been made. You can see if you're looking to get started with fantasy. I think this is a pretty cool addition to get started with, or even just to play. Period. If you're an experienced player. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. That's all I'm gonna do on this video. Maybe I'll do a video with some other stuff later on, but that's it for this series. Thank you so much for watching this, guys. Cheers.